Some words are meant to wound. Not the accidental kind, not the words people say when they're tired or careless and don't realize the damage. These are the deliberate kind. Said with a specific intention. Said to make sure a person knows exactly where you think they stand. Marcus Webb heard those words when he was 17 years old, from the man who ran the manufacturing plant where he worked summers and weekends to help his mother pay rent. The man's name was Gerald Holt. He was the owner and general manager of Holt Precision Parts, a mid-sized auto components factory in Detroit. He was the kind of man who believed his success gave him the right to comment on other people's limits. Marcus had asked about a full-time position after graduation. He had been working there for 2 summers. He was reliable. He showed up on time. He learned fast. Gerald had looked at him across the desk with the flat, unhurried contempt of someone who had already made up his mind before the question was finished. Full-time. Gerald said. Son, let me save us both some time. Boys like you don't move up. You don't have what it takes. You never will. He said it like it was a fact. Like a weather report. Clear skies tomorrow. This boy will amount to nothing. Marcus stood in that office and felt the words land. He didn't argue. He didn't respond at all. He thanked Gerald for his time and walked out. But he did not forget. Marcus grew up in a neighborhood in Detroit that was not the worst and not the best, the kind of area where whether you made it out or stayed depended on a combination of luck, will, and the presence of at least one person who believed in you when the environment wasn't offering much. His mother, Diane, was that person. She worked as a home health aide for 40 hours a week and took on additional cleaning shifts on weekends. She was the kind of woman who was tired in the bone but never let that tiredness become bitterness. She told Marcus every week, not every month, not on special occasions, every week, that he was intelligent and that intelligence used correctly could open any door. He believed her. Not because he was naive. Because she had never given him a reason not to trust her word. His father had left when Marcus was 4. He had no strong memory of him, just the shape of an absence that he had learned, over time, to stop trying to fill. He did well in school because it cost him nothing and gave him everything. Math came easily. He had a particular gift for systems, for seeing how pieces connected, where the inefficiencies lived, what could be improved if someone bothered to look carefully. His guidance counselor told him he had real aptitude for engineering or business. His teachers wrote him strong recommendations. And then Gerald Holt, in a 5-minute conversation, tried to reduce all of that to nothing. Marcus had known men like Gerald. He had grown up around the damage that men like Gerald left behind. But he had not expected it to find him in an office where he had been working faithfully for 2 summers. He went home that evening and told his mother what had been said. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Good. Now you know what you're building against." Marcus did not go back to Holt Precision Parts. He finished high school with strong grades. He got a partial scholarship to a state university in Michigan and took out loans to cover the rest. He studied mechanical engineering and, in his second year, added a business minor after a professor told him he had an unusual ability to see both the technical and the human side of organizational problems. He worked every summer. Not at Gerald Holt's factory. At other companies, smaller ones, where he learned different things at different levels: quality control, operations management, supply chain logistics. He was always the person who asked more questions than was strictly required and always the person who noticed the thing nobody else had thought to look at. He graduated in the top 15% of his class. He was hired by a mid-sized manufacturing consultancy in Chicago called Meridian Group. He was 23 years old and earning more than his mother made in a year. He called her the evening of his first paycheck. "You know what I thought about today?" he said. "Tell me," she said. "What Gerald Holt said." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you think about it often?" "Less than I used to," he said. "But sometimes." Today it was useful. Like I had something to prove and I proved it. You didn't prove it to him, she said. He doesn't know and probably wouldn't care. You proved it to yourself. That's the better version, Marcus said. Yes, she said. It is. Marcus rose steadily at Meridian Group over 7 years. He was good at seeing what was broken in a manufacturing operation and better at building the case for how to fix it in a way that made financial and human sense. He had learned, early, that the best process improvements were the ones that made workers' jobs easier while also making the operation more efficient. Those two things, he believed, were not in conflict. Most companies just hadn't figured out how to pursue both at once. His clients began requesting him specifically. He became a senior consultant at 30, a partner-track candidate at 32. During those years, he heard Gerald Holt's name once in passing. A colleague mentioned the company in a brief context, a standard industry reference. Marcus noted it and said nothing. He had not forgotten Holt Precision Parts. He had looked it up occasionally over the years. It was still there. Still run by Gerald Holt, now in his late 60s. Still mid-sized. Still not growing. This was not coincidence. Marcus had studied enough companies to recognize the signature of a certain kind of leadership, the kind that kept talent from rising, that ran on the owner's ego rather than the organization's potential, that never quite reached what it could be because the person at the top had decided the ceiling was low. He recognized that signature because he had lived on the other side of it. He didn't think about buying the company then. That came later. It came when Gerald Holt's company started bleeding money and went quietly on the market. Marcus was 35 when he first saw the listing. He was between clients, reviewing industry news on a Thursday afternoon, when he came across a brief note in a trade publication, Holt Precision Parts, Detroit-based auto components manufacturer, seeking acquisition or investment partner following consecutive years of revenue decline. He read the note twice. He sat back in his chair. He looked at the ceiling. He was not an impulsive person. He had built everything he had through careful, deliberate work. He did not make financial decisions quickly. He made them after study, after analysis, after identifying every risk clearly and deciding which ones were worth taking. He spent 4 weeks doing exactly that. He had saved and invested well over 12 years. He had access to capital through professional relationships. He understood manufacturing operations deeply. He knew how to assess a company's hidden potential, and he knew how to build it once he found it. Holt Precision Parts had problems. Significant ones. Outdated equipment, poor workforce retention, a management culture that was driving away exactly the people it needed to keep. These were all fixable. Expensive to fix, but fixable. The company was undervalued because of its recent losses. But its underlying assets, the equipment, the client relationships, the facility, were worth more than the asking price. Marcus did his due diligence. He reviewed financials. He visited the facility once, on a tour arranged under a different company name, and walked the floor he had worked on as a 17-year-old. He recognized some of the older workers. None of them recognized him. He made his decision. The acquisition took 5 months. Marcus assembled a small investment group and led the purchase. Gerald Holt, who was 71 and had been trying to sell the company for 2 years, agreed to terms at a price that reflected the company's difficulties. The legal paperwork was completed on a Friday morning. By that afternoon, Marcus was officially the owner of Holt Precision Parts. He told his mother that evening. "I bought Holt's company," he said. There was a long pause on the phone. "Gerald Holt's company," she said. "Yes." Another pause. He could hear her breathing. "Marcus," she said, and then she stopped. "I'm not doing it to get back at him," he said. He had thought about this carefully. He had been honest with himself about his motivations, which was a practice he had kept up since his 20s because he had seen what happened to people who weren't. I'm doing it because it's a good business deal and because I know how to fix what's wrong with it. But also, she said. Also, I needed to know if I could, he said. That's the honest part. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, do you know what your grandfather used to say? Tell me. He said the best revenge is becoming the thing they said you couldn't be. She paused. But even better than revenge is building something real. That's what I'm going to do, Marcus said. I know, she said. That's why you're my son. Gerald Holt did not know the acquisition had been handled through a corporate entity name. Gerald had met the lawyers, reviewed the terms, signed the papers. He had not met the buyer. He walked into the meeting room at the Holt Precision Parts facility on a Tuesday morning expecting to be introduced to an investor he didn't know. He had agreed to a short consulting transition period as part of the deal terms. Marcus was already seated at the table when Gerald came in. Gerald stopped. He was 70. He looked at Marcus. He searched his face. Marcus watched him work through it. He said, it took about 15 seconds. You worked summers here, Gerald said slowly. 20 years ago. About that, Gerald sat down. He looked around the room, at the lawyer, at the financial advisor, at the documentation on the table. You bought my company, he said. Yes. Gerald looked at him. For a long moment, nothing was said. Then Gerald said, in a voice that was quieter than Marcus had ever heard from him, the boy who wanted a full-time job. The same one, Marcus said. Marcus's office, a specific meeting. His attorney or financial advisor sits across the desk, a document between them. The document is the acquisition proposal, the original company, the one where Scene 1's supervisor delivered the verdict, is for sale. Marcus's expression receiving this information is the most complex in the story, the moment when something that seemed impossible reveals itself as possible, and the question is what to do with that. His face moves through the layers, recognition, calculation, something old being revisited. His expression does not become triumphant. It becomes very still. His hands are flat on the desk. He is thinking. The advisor across from him is watching him with the expression of someone who brought this information expecting a reaction and is receiving something more internal. The office is lit by the professional daylight from the windows, the clear, honest light of a decision being considered. Camera angle, from the side of the desk, Marcus on the left with his still complex expression, the advisor on the right, the acquisition document between them sharp, the window light on Marcus's face, the office surrounding. The emotional tone is history presenting itself as an opportunity. Ultra-realistic, 8K resolution, HDR, clear professional daylight, side of desk bilateral cinematic composition, Marcus's still complex expression sharp left, advisor right, acquisition document between them, window light on Marcus, emotionally layered history as opportunity composition. The restructuring took 18 months. Marcus brought in a new operations manager and promoted 2 floor supervisors who had been there for years and had excellent knowledge of the work but had never been elevated under Gerald's management. He invested in equipment upgrades that had been deferred for a decade. He restructured the benefits program in a way that improved retention almost immediately. He walked the floor regularly. He learned names. He held quarterly sessions where workers could speak directly about problems and see follow-up in writing within 2 weeks. The culture changed. Not overnight, cultures never change overnight. But the direction changed. And when direction changes clearly and is held to, the people inside an organization feel it within months. Revenue stabilized in the first year. By month 18, it was growing. Several of the older workers who had been there during Marcus's summer years eventually recognized him. He talked to them directly when they did, no drama, just acknowledgement. Yes, I used to work here. Yes, I know how different it feels now. I'm glad you stayed. Gerald's consulting period ended after 90 days. He didn't extend it. Marcus didn't push. They had said what needed to be said, and the rest was movement. Marcus heard, through a mutual contact, that Gerald had retired to Florida. He did not reach out. There was nothing else to say. The account, as far as Marcus was concerned, was settled, not through Gerald's acknowledgement, which had been small and brief, but through what Marcus had built in the room where the damage had been done. Diane came to the factory the spring of the second year. Marcus gave her a tour himself. He walked her through the floor where he had stacked inventory at 17, through the offices where he had been told he had no future, through the improvements and the new equipment and the break room that had been expanded and the wall where he had put up a board showing internal promotion statistics because he wanted everyone to see that moving up was possible here. His mother walked beside him and looked at everything carefully. At the end of the tour, they stood in the parking lot in the afternoon sun. "Well," she said. "Well," Marcus said. She looked at the building for a moment. Then she looked at him. "Are you happy?" she asked. Not about the company specifically. Just the broader question that mothers ask when they want to know if the life their child built actually fits them. Marcus thought about it honestly. "Yes," he said. "Not because I bought this place. That was part of it. But it's the people inside now that do it. Watching something broken become something that works, and knowing the people doing the work are treated like they matter. That's the part." Diane nodded slowly. "Your grandfather would have liked this." "I know." She took his arm. They stood for another moment. "Gerald told you that you'd never amount to anything," she said. "And look." Marcus looked at the factory. "He was working with the wrong information," Marcus said. Diane smiled. He didn't know who he was talking to. She was right. Gerald Holt had looked at a 17-year-old boy and seen a ceiling. He had not seen what Marcus saw every morning when he looked in the mirror. He had not seen what Diane had told him he had not seen a builder. But the building had happened anyway. And that, Marcus had learned, was the whole point. You don't become something to prove it to the people who doubted you. You become it because it was always in you, waiting for the day you decided that someone else's wrong opinion was not going to be the ceiling of your life.